Sigma is not a main tank. Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to the channel. I'm Stylosa and I'm joined by the wonderful...
One amongst many, hello, I am here. Yeah, I think Sty and I have both kind of felt this one. Hopefully a lot of other people are as well. I'll be curious to see, like, if there are people who are, like, adamant that, no, he is a main tank, he's 100% a main tank. I'm sure you're out there, I'm sure you exist. We want to know your reasons why, because... I don't know about you, Sty, but I'm a support main, like, or at least I was. I've been playing a lot of DPS this season because roll queue. But, you know, I play a lot of Ana and a lot of Zen. And with Ana and Zen, you get a very good feel, very quickly, of how safe you are, right? Because damage just flies through and you die very quickly if you don't have proper tanking. And it feels like if, you know, we've got like Sigma Hog or Sigma Diva, it's a bit tough. It's a bit tough to survive.
Yeah, I think this is coming from... I think it's coming honestly from Jeff. Jeff did say this is a main tank hero. And they may believe it's a main tank hero, the devs. It absolutely isn't. What he is a barrier off tank. That's exactly what it is. There's no two ways about this. That is exactly what Sigma is. He doesn't give you that level of protection an Orisa gives you. That level of protection a Reinhardt gives you. Winston, I'm not really going to include in this because Winston's a dive barrier tank. Completely different. Main tank, dive, whatever. But we're looking at Reinhardt, we're looking at Orisa, and then we look at Sigma. Sigma is outclassed by both of those heroes just straight away. The point you raised, Josh, about feeling completely vulnerable on the back line, I completely agree with that. Now, I think I'm just bad, but I find it difficult to heal Sigma as well. If I'm playing Ana and I'm trying to fire heals into him, he's got that weird body, which is like... To me, it feels like Zarya. You know, you're trying to heal Zarya, and maybe I'm just bad, I don't know. But I'm like trying to pump heals, and I'm like, Sigma, what are you doing? Sigma, and I'm trying to keep him, and then he just gets killed, and then I cry.
He's just got a very unique model. Like, he's that weird T shape for Talon that, like, you got to. I think that's just an adaptation thing, though. I think that's just going to take a little bit of getting used to. But yeah, it's that barrier tank thing that I think is throwing a lot of people. Like, you think of barrier and you think, oh, he's got to be a main tank, right? But his barrier is weaker than Reinhardt's, and you think about how fast Reinhardt's barrier dies in current meta. It's like how you can't have this tiny little piddly square, this little post stamp of a shield to protect an entire team and then expect it to last as well when it's like 500 hit points weaker than Reinhardt's shield that already gets obliterated in seconds. It is so much stronger as a barrier when you have like an Orisa barrier down and then you put the Sigma barrier up when the Orisa barrier breaks and then you bring it back down, you have it recharged and then you just rotate those two. That's so powerful, it's so strong, it's so difficult to break, and it's sort of why things are shifting towards this barrier-centric meta, right?
Yeah, I think it's like the first utility barrier in the game because you can do some really cool stuff with it. I mean, there's like Junkertown first point attack. If the enemy have got a Widow likes to hang around at the back of the point, especially as you're pushing the payload to the first point. You can throw the barrier into her face, and it's massively obnoxious. It forces her to keep relocating her position, and that's actually pretty good. You're the only tank that can do that with a barrier, so that's cool. But the thing is, and I think this is why the double barrier meta is a thing, is you still need a barrier which will protect your team. And Sigma's barrier, even though it's 1500 hit points, it's not enough to protect your team because you're constantly moving it. It's getting destroyed really fast. Like you said, Rein's 2000 HP barrier gets annihilated pretty quick, and that's an extra 500. And then you've got Rein there as well, and he's just tankier than Sigma anyway, I guess, when he's not. Well, that's a bit of a debate, actually, because Sigma is fairly tanky when he does use Kinetic Grasp, which is kind of funky. But still, you don't have that feeling of the team is protected if you've just got a Sigma. If you've got Sigma and Rein or Sigma and Orisa, Sigma can be very creative with his barriers. He can put them into positions. I've done a pirate ship on Route 66. I was playing as Sigma and we had an Orisa. So Orisa's obviously putting the frontal shield down, and I kind of had this weird sort of, like, I kept redeploying the shield like as almost at like a 45-degree angle, like behind us, you know, as you're going around the first point, because there's a hog. And I don't want the hog to hook us, and I'm like obnoxiously blocking him with the shield, and that's really effective. But I couldn't put my shield as the main barrier. It would just get deleted. Yep. Now, there's probably people out there thinking, well, Sty, Orisa's is only 900 HP. It is. But actually, Orisa's is 1800 because she's almost certainly going to drop another barrier as soon as the first one's destroyed. And she can use Fortify and Body Block as well. So it's a bit different.
Yeah, and you give her a little bit of time and she's suddenly got like a brand new one. And I think this is like a learning thing. Like, I think there's a few learning things with Sigma that people are still picking up on. Like, when the first couple of days of him coming out, even like on live, not even just PTR, on live, I'm convinced a couple of people thought that every time he puts out a new barrier, it was a fresh barrier. Like, they thought that every single time he was replacing it was a new one. And it's just like, no. It's just a 1500, you know, it's not much. It's not that strong. Just shoot it and it goes away very quickly. And then he has to do his little kinetic grasp. And then after that, he's got nothing. Nada. Squat, zilch.
Especially with Symmetra everywhere now.
Oh, yes. I literally the other day was just playing Sim for most of my rounds.
I put a video out on Sim yesterday, actually. Well, whenever the hell. It was some point this week, and it was pretty funny. But, like, that's kind of a symptom of Sigma, right? Sigma comes in, everybody's playing Sigma, then people realize, actually, we need a main tank with Sigma, so you get the double barrier meta. Then as an effect of that, you get Sim, and then Sim's deleting your barrier fast. It's like, what?
It's brilliant. Although there's other learning things with Sigma as well. Like, his ultimate is very interesting in that he floats into orbit as he uses it, and he shouts that the universe is singing to him, and he jumps into the air. And I think at some point people are going to learn that you just shoot him, and he just dies. Immediately.
I think for tank ultimates, he is the most vulnerable tank when he uses his ultimate. I think Hog's like a close second when he's popping his good old whole Hog, because he obviously can't heal and he's just lets farm him for ult charge. But at least he can be healed easier because he's not flying around in space doing whatever he's doing. But Sigma is really vulnerable when he pops his ulti, and it is a bit weird because I think a lot of people think there's some sort of like I'm Magneto, I'm some sort of god, I'm like flying forward like whoa, let's go, and it's like, oh, I'm dead. Oh god, I'm dead.
It is a bloody good ultimate. It's really powerful.
Easy to put to sleep. It is when it works. Yeah, it's got some really nice combos as well. The McCree combo with it's actually quite nice. The Diva Bomb combo as well. Hammond is really strong with it. It is a. Don't get me wrong here, guys. It is a strong ultimate, but you are very vulnerable when you use it. If you compare that to Orisa's Supercharger, well, Orisa's generally safe when she uses that. Compare it to Earth Shatter for Ryan. Well, I mean, it's like you're a lot safer using those ultimates.
Yes, exactly. Although, to me, that's another part, and this is like a weak argument for him to be an off-tank, but off-tanks, to me, are typified. How you separate an off-tank to a main tank. An off-tank can, be flexible. An off-tank needs to be able to roam around and sort of shore up and patch up defenses where you kind of need it. If someone's, flanking around the back line, you send your off-tank, they can go deal with it, they can push it out. And, even Roadhog can kind of do this, where if someone's bullying your backline, you just sit Roadhog next to them. Now, suddenly, your backline's a little bit safer. Sigma can kind of do that. Another thing that, to me, typifies an off-tank, really powerful team-killing ults, like Graviton Surge, classic example of it, Diva Bomb, can absolutely wipe teams out. Whole Hog kind of more barrier shattery, more barrier disruptory, can kill people, but it's not the greatest example of this. But Sigma ult, good lord, yes, that can absolutely annihilate teams, and has done and frequently does so. So it's he also has that factor to him. He's also a bit more damagey than most of the main tanks. He feels like, complete off-tank to me, and it's very frustrating because he is the new hero and everyone wants to try him, right? Everyone wants to play him, and sort of, people are experimenting around, and now's the time to do it. Now is the time to experiment. But to me, the experiment kind of feels like it's concluding, and it's going, yeah, he's an off-tank.
Yeah, I mean, I originally was like, okay, he's a main tank. That's what we think he is. We start playing with him, and it's like, well, we're doing quite a lot of damage with this guy, and he feels like very utility-based, so he's probably like a hybrid main tank, off-tank. But now, as time's gone on, and as I've played quite a few games in competitive, in role queue, it's very clear to me he is an off-tank. He's not a main tank. You can never take him as a single main tank. If you do, you're asking for a lot of trouble, because you're just going to get farmed, because you don't have that interception capability to keep your team alive through God knows what kind of spam is coming in. You just don't have it. You can absorb it for a few seconds, and that's it. It's down. Sigma's kind of useless as a tank then. Okay, he's contributing quite a bit of damage. Yes, you might be able to eat ultimates with kinetic grasp, but it's much more difficult than it is with defense matrix. This again is why we see more Mei, because Mei can almost get a free blizzard, because the only thing you're looking out for is a Sigma, and if he's not point blank on top of you, he's not going to eat your ultimate, because there isn't really much Diva at the moment. So I guess in this section of the video, let's talk about Sigma tank combos and what's going on. So I guess the first one is Sigma Hog. How do we feel about that?
I feel like Hog's always had that issue, right, of being an ult battery, right? If you can shoot him, if you can land hits on him, then you just feed ult to the enemy team non-stop, and that's kind of, remedy when you have him with an Orisa. He's so strong with the Orisa, it's like, why would you ever play him with anything else other than the Orisa? And so I just get the feeling like, especially if I'm playing something like Zen or Ana, if I have Sigma Hog, I just don't have... the enemy team is just landing shots on me constantly, and just everyone's taking damage constantly, and that's sort of how I had to panic. It's almost like that moment you have to play something like Baptiste that has the AoE healing output that can actually keep everybody alive through all the damage that's coming through, because Sigma's little barrier isn't going to block everything. People can kind of find angles around it and stuff like that. And yeah, it can kill pretty well. You have great combo potential, right? If he hooks and then you just throw a big rock at someone, they ain't getting away no matter who it is. But other than that, it's just like, it just feels soft to me.
I mean, the issue, again, is if you're playing into a team that has double barrier, then you're screwed. You just can't do anything, and your barrier will go down way before theirs, and then you die. That's the problem. Or everybody gets their ultimates massively quick because you're Hog. I honestly think, this might be a little bit harsh saying it, but I think Sigma Hog is pretty much throwing in the tank slots. If you roll that, it's not great. You can be easily abused, and yeah, that's not great. So the next one I've got is Sigma D.Va, and I honestly feel this is kind of similar to Sigma Hog in a way. D.Va is a bit of an ult battery. Defense matrix isn't as crazy as it used to be. Still really good, don't get me wrong. But like, I kind of struggle to see where the D.Va fits in with the Sigma, because yeah, she's got defense matrix. She could overlay that with the barrier to keep it up a little bit longer, but then I don't really know what's going on. It's almost like you've got two tanks in completely different roles there. You've got like a dive tank in a way with D.Va, and then you've got this very slow moving Sigma with a weak barrier, which should be replaced with any other tank with a better barrier.
Yeah, it's like, right, if you want to have a slow push with that comp, then you want to have like a Reinhardt or a Orisa or something like that, and if you want to have a dive, then you want to have the Winston or maybe even the Hammond instead. Sigma just kind of doesn't fill a niche in that team comp. He doesn't have a set role, and so it just feels kind of weak and fluid. But then sort of coming up next, like touched on Hammond, Sigma Hammond. Now, people love the combo. The ult combo for this is fantastic. You know, the sort of the Sigma balls, as people like to call it. It's incredibly strong. But for that combo, you basically, I don't know, when you're playing support with that, it's just like, where do I stand? Where could I be that's safe? No, the enemy's just going to run up to me and kill me. I can't be anywhere.
Yeah, it's again kind of the same as D.Va, right? You've got a dive tank with Sigma, and it just doesn't work. Like, you can't trade the ult combo, the old Sigma balls, off for such a weak front line, and that's the issue here. You have to have a strong front line, and Sigma is a strong front line when he's combined with Reinhardt or Orisa, but any other tank, it's a bit of an issue. So I guess if we look at Sigma Winston, I suppose to quickly wrap that up again, that's pretty much the same as the two previous tank. Well, yeah, it kind of is. It's the same as D.Va and Hammond, right? He's a dive tank. Winston is the barrier dive tank, the dive main tank. What's Sigma going to be doing while Winston's diving in?
Yeah, he's just going to slowly be floating towards people and firing off his balls all over the place and trying to hit people with rocks. I guess that's kind of it.
You should be playing D.Va in that case if you've got a Winston. So this again comes back to the idea of, and in a couple of recent videos I've made, I've spoke about like the strongest heroes right now. So for DPS, you can say unequivocally it's Mei. Mei is the best DPS right now, but that doesn't mean she's the best all of the time. There are times where you need to swap them out because maybe it isn't working, and it's kind of the same with all of these tanks. Like, you can say, okay, maybe the Sigma isn't the right pick right now, we should swap to a different tank, and that's where people have got to be aware. And I'm pretty confident in saying that the tanks, especially on the enemy team, definitely dictate what the DPS and the other team need to be doing. If they're heavy barrier, then you need barrier break. If they're not, then you can start doing cheeky stuff. If I see a Sigma and a Hog on the enemy team, I know I can just run around as soldier. I can just do whatever the hell I like. I can play McCree. I'd probably play Hanzo in that case, just to completely delete his barrier and then destroy the enemy team. So there's a lot of ways where you have to be fluid. So it isn't just set in stone, like, play this hero, it's the best currently. You have to be flexible. So I guess moving on to the really strong combos here with Sigma. Sigma and Rein is really quite strong. Now, to me, this has got quite a few benefits. If you are going against a bunker comp, you can rush the bunker comp with this. You can throw your Sigma barrier directly into the bunker. So this would be an Orisa, Batiste, Bastion, and let's say they've got a Sigma as well. But you can throw your barrier into the Bastion. You know your barrier is going to die. Doesn't matter though, because that gives you time to get through that first point choke on Paris, for example, with the Reinhardt barrier. Then Rein can absorb the damage, and then your Sigma barrier is back to reuse again. And that is really powerful. The difference when you compare that to Orisa with the Rein is the Rein is mobile. So you can use him to, like, I think you coined this term a lot, Josh, but like the rush down comps, it's kind of like that. You can just smash into the enemy team with this, and it is surprisingly effective.
It's really good. Like, it's surprisingly good against Hog Risa, basically. Like, the problems that people were having with Hog Risa and why you could not play Reinhardt with, like, Zarya or D.Va is that Zarya and D.Va just couldn't give enough support to the Reinhardt to get the Reinhardt where he needs to be. Sigma can do that. He can absolutely do that. You put your barrier in front of Rein is now protected. and then he can run in. By the time you get to the enemy Orisa Hog, your Reinhardt still has a fresh 2,000 hit point barrier, your team is inside their team, and suddenly all the power that Orisa had, the sort of extra strength she gets from her barrier, well, now she just has to run away. She has to sort of give up ground, or she dies. And that's great for your team, because then you just push them out slowly but surely, and you can actually get Reinhardt working. Like, Sigma is great when paired with Reinhardt. He's absolutely superb. And I love it. I actually really, really like it. I think it's very, very good if you also have like Reapers and stuff, because it can get you your Reaper in, you can get the Mei in, for example, as well. So it's like, it's such a strong combo, it's such a good combo that I would be surprised if we don't start seeing it pop up more and more people start realizing that, yeah, Reinhardt's back, baby. He just needed like another 1,500 hit point barrier in front of him. Yeah. That's all he needed.
Okay, so what about Sigma Orisa? This is very strong as well. And it's kind of like, the Rein Sigma is strong at breaking barriers, but the Sigma Orisa is a very strong bunker barrier style setup, and it's very strong on certain points.
Yeah, I think like the Sigma Rein can beat it if you're just like bold enough, if you're brave enough, but the Sigma Orisa, if the enemy team has DPS that don't want to swap and they have like Ashe and McCree, they will never, ever, ever beat you, because you just constantly have all these barriers in front of them. You constantly are able to block absolutely everything. Anytime Orisa's barrier gets overwhelmed, you just put the Sigma barrier in front of it, and then you're safe for those couple of seconds that you need to wait. Put the Sigma barrier away, and then suddenly you're good to go. Even if they play like Widowmaker and try flanking super aggressively, you can project that Sigma barrier wherever you need it, when you need it, and it's great for blocking all that kind of stuff as well. So yeah, it's like, it's a really strong defensive comp. It's just a little bit vulnerable to getting run down, and that's where like the Sigma Rein starts coming in. So if you are struggling against that kind of stuff, then you can do it. And also, this is where the Symmetra starts coming in, because you can just feed off Sigma's barrier with Symmetra, and you get level 3 charge and just obliterate everybody. It's hilarious.
I think I'm a Symmetra main. It's that good. It's insane. It's ridiculous. But yeah, I think, guys, to wrap this video up, Sigma is not a main tank. If you are playing Sigma and you don't have a main barrier tank with you, you should probably swap the Sigma right now. That is the way the meta seems to be going, at least based off our experience and based off what we've seen so far. So, for example, if you are the Sigma and you've got a Hammond on your team, that's not probably going to be great. In that case, you either double down with the dive and the Hammond, or you take a Reinhardt or an Orisa just to keep your team protected. Probably, I'd say, if I was playing support, you might agree with this, Josh, I don't know, but I'd prefer to have like the Rein or the Orisa, just so I know I've got a stable base to work with and I'm protected from that incessant bloody Hanzo spam, which you know is coming and is going to kill you. And you're like, well, great, I've just been one shot in the head and it's bad times for me. So yeah, the moral of the story is, guys, you've got to be flexible here. You can't just roll one tank or one DPS or one support or whatever. You have to be slightly flexible, but be clever when you're flexible and look at what the enemy team have got.
I mean, that's the dream.
Kind of sums it up, right?
Yeah, that's kind of the dream, right? Especially with this, you know, with tanking and with supports as well. It's going to depend on what the enemy team's running. It's going to depend on the map as well. If you want to, like, you know, if you're playing Paris, you're going to want barriers, obviously, to defend. Hanamura, you're going to want barriers. But on more open maps, you might want something a little bit more flexible, a little bit more agile. Stuff like, you know, Junkertown First Point, for example, you might want to be able to cover a couple more bases here and there. Junkertown Third Point as well, with like all that open high ground to deal with. You might actually want something like the Reinhardt Sigma, just to be able to sort of change and adapt your angles as you need. Or you might want the Orisa Sigma and then really bunker down like quite far back and play very defensively. It depends on what your team's running, it depends on what your team wants to do, and it depends on what you want to do. But that flexibility to me is key, and honestly, that's where we want Overwatch to be. All right, we want all these different heroes to sort of work and have their place.
Alright guys, well, I've been Stylos. You can follow me on Twitter, which is @Stylos. And remember guys, if you really like the video, then like the video. I know this sounds cheesy and corny because every YouTuber says this, but liking videos really does help. And of course, you can subscribe to the channel, tap the bell so you get alerted to when videos have gone live. And I've been joined by the wonderful
One Amongst Many. You can find me on Twitter at @1_amongst_many. You can find me on Twitch as well at twitch.tv/oneamongstmanytv, where I'll do regular coaching, and I also do like pro review and then bunch of ladder myself as well, where we discover things like, hey, no, Symmetra is actually broken as hell in this current meta. Had a really good time that stream. Really good time that stream.
Easy 195 DPS per second every single fight. Because I can just charge myself up to 100% nice. Zarya every fight. And on that bombshell, ladies and gentlemen, we'll catch you on the next one. Toodaloo.
Bye.